Other than being one of the best films ever created, if not the best film ever created, The Godfather Part II is a masterclass example of using cross-cutting to tell a story of transformation and tragedy. At the end of the first Godfather, the film leaves us with Michael trying to fill the shoes of his father, Vito Andolini Corleone. When we first see Michael in The Godfather Part II, he is now fully following in his father's footsteps as the Don of the family, running the day-to-day business operations, very much like the beginning of the first Godfather movie, where we see Vito running his operations on the day of his daughter's wedding.
Did you come into my house on the day my daughter's to be married?
The beginning of the film starts with Vito as a boy. His brother is killed during his father's funeral, and shortly after his mother, at the hands of Don Sissio. I hope I said that correctly. So right off the bat, we see a young Vito before he becomes the man he is in The Godfather Part I, the man that Michael is trying to become in The Godfather Part II. And throughout the entire film, we watch both Vito and Michael transform into this powerful character, the Don, the Godfather. And these transformations are presented to the viewer through cross-cutting. So already at the beginning of the film, we've been introduced to two separate storylines, Vito's origin story and Michael's life after the first movie, following in his father's footsteps. Noticed at the end of the first segment with Michael, his house is shot up by someone. We don't know yet at this point in time. A problem has now been thrown into Michael's day in the life, so to speak. We cut back to Vito, now older and settled into his new life. He's watching a play with his friend, and we are introduced to his problem, Don Fanucci. A few things happen in Vito's story after this, but the problems have been introduced for us in both storylines. Now, back to Michael. A lot happens in the next 40 minutes of the film, but basically we find out that Roth is the one responsible for the attempt on Michael's life, and we find out that his brother betrayed him. The sequence ends with Tom Hagen delivering the news that Michael's wife Kay had a miscarriage, the death of a child.
Now can't you give me a straight answer anymore? Was it a boy?
Here's the power of cross-cutting. We then cut back to Vito's storyline, with Vito watching a sick Fredo be tended to as a baby. This is a powerful cut in this point of the film. Already, Michael is not following the exact path of his father, and this cut illustrates it. Vito has a baby, Michael's wife had a miscarriage, and his brother has betrayed him. He is not following his father's path. He's creating his own, and is lost in the process of doing so. This is what causes Michael to grow more and more paranoid and withdrawn from the ones that he loves. Cross-cutting is used in this film to show the contrast between both he and his father. They are not the same. This is shown more clearly in the final parts of the film with the assassination. No, murder of Fredo by Michael. Before we see Fredo murdered by Michael, we watch Vito and Sicily get revenge for the murder of his family. That chapter of his life has now reached its conclusion, and he now goes on with his family to become the powerful man we knew in the first film. He has a happy ending. This is not so for Michael. Again, these characters' stories contrast each other. Michael's mother is dead, a not-so-subliminal reminder that the previous chapter of his life is now closed too. Michael even says in the film that he will not have Fredo murdered until his mother's passing.
I don't want anything to happen to him while my mother's alive.
Now that she has passed, so too has any humanity left in Michael at this point in the film. He is cold and disconnected, and of course, Fredo is killed. At the end, Michael sits and ponders what he has done while remembering an older and happier part of his life. A chapter that is now closed forever. We've now seen Michael's transformation from a man following in his father's footsteps to finding his own way, and Vito becoming the powerful man we knew in the first film. Vito's story starts with a tragedy, and Michael starts with a celebration. Vito's story ends happily, and Michael's ends tragically, with the death of his brother. We've seen the similarities and differences between the two interwoven throughout the entire film, each storyline bearing more impactful moments thanks to the other storyline running in parallel to it. And this is all thanks to the film's impeccable use of cross-cutting. Without cross-cutting, neither story would be nearly as impactful. You needed the use of cross-cutting in The Godfather Part II, with Vito's storyline and Michael's storyline, to make the conclusion of each have an impact. And that is the power of cross-cutting in film.